If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes gravity. Choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stacked that he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about the Wait.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. If you're on Facebook, follow us on Facebook. Make sure you share it out and like the video. If you are over on Twitter, retweet it out. Make sure you're following us on Twitter. And if you're over on YouTube, do me a favor. Make sure you like this video, hit subscribe. And if you're on the other platforms, head over to the YouTube page. That's where we want you to be watching. That's where we can put your comments up on the screen, interact with you, and all your questions, thoughts, concerns. I am Phil Stifer, your host at Bearded Knowledge on Twitter. Make sure you shoot me a follow. And my main man, the birthday boy, Mr. Jason Voorhees at Mustang3651. He is now officially closer to 50 years old than 40 years old. I know. We'll all get there someday, hopefully. But happy birthday, Jason. And glad to see you smiling on this birthday here this morning.
Yeah, I wasn't smiling this overnight. I didn't sleep too good. I went to bed like at 6 o'clock last night. I did a string of like all these nights in a row, and then I had to work early and then go back to like my schedule's all fouled up. So, but yeah, I'm smiling because I know that as you mentioned, I'm 1 year closer to 50, which sucks.
Hey, I mean, it's such a special day, your birthday, that someone like Cole isn't ready to troll. Cole is ready to actually be polite and say, hey,
I actually love Cole. Cole did a good job yesterday.
Fantastic job yesterday. As he said on somebody's Twitter feed, he's got a lot of untapped potential, and he does. He's still wrong that Jordan isn't as good as LeBron, but that's another whole, we went on a long subject with that yesterday.
You can always be wrong, but it's how you go about being wrong that tells the tale. No, Cole, in all fairness, like I said, we bust each other's, balls and chops, but Cole is a good guy. All these guys in DSM. I mean, listen, we're all going to have different opinions, and I know they love to, call us the boomers. And I actually think it's funny because, I'll be 50 in 30 years. Yes, Cole, thanks. I know.
Yeah, we are old, Jason. I mean, you're older than me, but we are old, Jason.
It's okay. Old sometimes is not a bad thing, but, hey, it comes down to whether do you feel old. Now, when I work, I feel older. Now, when I'm off and I'm actually enjoying my time, then I actually feel younger. So,
well, happy birthday. We all wish you the best today and another healthy year. But we're not here to be sentimental towards each other. Ooh. We're here to talk sports. So let's move on from that. We got a jam-packed show today. All right, so Phillies swept by the Rangers. That's going to be the opening topic. We're going to talk the Phillies for a little bit. Then join us at 9 a.m. My man, team captain of DSM, Scotty Drowned will be joining us because it is the NBA draft today. Lots of basketball rumors, lots of Sixers rumors. There was already one trade, Jeremy Grant getting traded, to the Portland Trailblazers for their draft pick. Lots going on. So we're going to bring in the best at that, Scotty, see where his Duke boy, whatever his name, Pablo or however you say his name, Paolo Banchero. I don't know how to pronounce it, but wherever he goes, we're going to find out because I know he cares the most about his Duke boys. So we'll have Scotty joining us at 9 a.m. to cover all that. But we're going to start with the Phillies. Last night, yesterday afternoon, 4-2 to the Texas Rangers. Swept. I said it on Monday or Tuesday when we were talking the Phillies. that let's not overlook this team, that it was going to be tough to go 3-3 on this road trip. 6-game road trip. Now you just started it off 0-2. And Jason, you've been preaching it. You've been pounding the table on how inconsistently streaky this team is, not just on offense, but as a whole. But this is, basically all that good momentum that we got, 9 in a row, 14 of 16, whatever it was. It's basically being washed away because we've lost 3 in a row. And now we're going to San Diego, where it's going to be a struggle to go 2-2 in that series. And we're right back to where we basically started. And it just goes to show that this team, to use the movie quote, the football quote, they are who we thought they are. I mean, this is what the Phillies are. They are an average team. And I see people freaking out about this and that on every loss, but I don't understand why people freak out so much. Because they are who they are. An okay average team that's going to win a lot of games and then lose a lot of games. And that's just the way it is. So what are your thoughts there, Jason?
Well, my thoughts are, it's crazy because I thought that today I was going to wake up and I was going to want to have like a tirade on the Phillies. But I think you kind of nailed it. Like, the Phillies are what they are, but I'm looking at this a little bit differently right now. So okay. I think we talked about it when Rob Thompson first took over as manager, that there was going to be kind of the honeymoon phase where everything's going right and every single move that he seemed to make was the right move. I'm looking at this next stretch as the determining factor on how this team will actually realistically play as far as its mentality when the chips are down. Because that's when teams really show what they're made of and what they're about. Like, how does a team respond to some adversity? And I think right now you're starting to see some adversity creep back into this team. It's nothing new. It's the same adversity. It's the, struggles at the plate. It's the, guys not having good at bats. It's guys going up to the plate without a plan. I look at a guy like Nick Castellanos right now, who's in probably his worst slump of his career. I mean, I've watched this guy when he was with Detroit. I'm a baseball guy, so I watch a lot of baseball besides the Phillies. And Nick Castellanos has been one of my favorite players for years. And the reason is because he's consistent. So he's kind of the model of it, the exact opposite of what the Phillies are. But right now, he's in a major, major slump. As I said, it's probably the worst of his career. If I'm Rob Thompson, he needs to take a seat. He needs to have a day or two off. He has to reset. You cannot keep going like this when a guy it's obvious to everybody in the world. I mean, I see people that love Nick Castellanos on Twitter basically tweeting out that the guy sucks. And that's frustration. We know he doesn't suck. We know that he's a great player and he was signed, to come here and help this team. But he's actually in one of those. It's more than a slump. It's like one of those long-term funks when a guy can just not do anything right at the plate. They have no plan. They're kind of lost. And that's where he's at. And if I'm Rob Thompson, he needs to take a seat for a day or two. And I'm definitely moving him out of the, down in the lineup. He's not producing. And it's kind of having a like an umbrella effect on the rest of the lineup because some of the guys, obviously Schwarber had another home run yesterday. We talked about it. June Schwarber is like, I keep saying like June Schwarber is approaching Reggie Jackson of October. Like it's that crazy. Like he's just in June, he just kind of becomes like Superman. So I don't know. And you know me, I'm kind of down on Schwarber, but I can't criticize the guy. He's having a great month. Mm-hmm. Rhys Hoskins started to turn a corner, and now you kind of see him go back into his funk. And this is what I get at about the inconsistency and the streakiness. We can't have like a 1 week worth of like guys just going off. It just doesn't happen. The only one it does happen with is Bryce Harper, and he was out. So I kind of attribute some of this like little funk to the fact that he was out of the lineup, and this team just doesn't seem to be able to find itself when he's not there.
Nick Castellanos is such an interesting thing because I got into it. You talk about the people that, he sucks, this and that. Look, he's going through his worst slump of his career. And his worst slump of his career and it's lasting not it's not like it's like 30 at bats or 20 at bats. It's been going on for like 3-4 weeks now. So it is a very long stretch. And I get the theory of resting him, or not resting, benching him a couple games, give him, a chance to reset. But I got two thoughts on it. One, first off, and I brought this up yesterday, Cole thought it might have been a little bit of it, maybe not as much as I thought. He wasn't brought here to be the everyday right fielder. He was brought here to be the DH / part-time platoon in left field with Kyle Schwarber. Is there anything to it that maybe the excessive amount of stress of playing right field every day, not his natural position? I mean, I'm not saying he's playing bad in right field. He's doing a serviceable job out there. He's no Bryce Harper in right field, but he's doing a serviceable job out there. But maybe that's affecting him a little bit. But also, instead of just the days off, maybe take some of the pressure off of him. I mean, the other day when Harper wasn't in the lineup, they didn't move him down in the lineup. They moved him up to the 3 spot, an even more stressful position in the lineup. I mean, I know we don't have a plethora of guys to hit in the cleanup spot. But can't we put Castellanos in the 7 or 8 hole for 2 or 3 games to less pressure kind of put on him? I mean, give him a day off, bat him the 7 hole, give him another day off, then another 7 hole. Maybe that alleviates some of the pressure on him. Helps his legs a little bit with not playing right field for 2 games. I don't know. I think there needs to be. It's not just 2 days off, and then all of a sudden he's going to get back into it. He needs a little bit more than just that. I don't know what your thoughts are on those points.
I mean, honestly, like even last year, if you look at Bryce Harper's MVP year last year, Bryce Harper struggled immensely in the first half of the season.
Yeah,
like there
absolutely.
were times where Bryce Harper looked lost at the plate. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it might not have been his first year. It may have been his second. It may have been the COVID year, or one of the years he was batting 200 at like the All-Star break for the Phillies. So I just believe that when guys get into these long-term funks, you have to do a mini reset. You have to do it like a shock the brain, like almost. And by moving him down in the hole to the 7th spot, he's not going to take offense to that. Rob Thompson needs to go to him and say, look, man, you're struggling. I'm going to move you down in the lineup. Like maybe something has to click where a guy that is – a lot of times these things are mental. And when you shock somebody, like that's why anytime somebody's having struggles with anything, a lot of times you shock them. It will kind of bring them back to homeostasis, like the middle ground. And then they kind of,
So are you suggesting that they do shock therapy to Nick Castellanos?
I mean, that could be a thing.
Baseball bat in his mouth to bite down on. I'm just picturing Howie Mad Murdoch from the A-Team movie getting shot. Oh, that tickled a little bit. I don't know.
No, I just like
I get what you're saying, and I think you're onto something there, because I think I think Nick Castellanos is a pretty strong-minded baseball player. He's not going to let the slump affect him or a demotion affect him. Like I look at it, we've seen plenty of pitchers in our history, come up, be lights out, then struggle really bad, and then the Phillies send him to the minors. Or hey, use Scott Kingery as an example. Demoting him didn't make him better, because demoting him, I guess mentally he was probably frustrated by it. But sometimes, I remember one time, well, actually, I got even a better example that just popped in my head. Cliff Lee, when he was still in Cleveland, before we got him traded, he won a Cy Young. Then the year after his Cy Young, he stunk for the Cleveland Indians. The Cleveland Indians demoted the reigning AL Cy Young winner for a couple weeks to AAA. He got his mind set, and he came back, pitched great, and then the Phillies traded for him. Rest is history. There's a difference between people that take that promotion or demotion, and I'm not suggesting demoting Nick Castellanos to AAA. I'm just saying the mindset of getting lowered in the lineup or being forced to be given a few days off to reset. Real strong mental players, which I feel like Nick Castellanos is one of those guys, that doesn't affect them. It helps them. It can take them to the next level even. I mean, you look at it, Cliff Lee became a better pitcher after a quote-unquote reset. Brett Myers did it. Brett Myers was struggling for a little while, and I forget what year it was. He was demoted for like 3 weeks, came back. It's the same thing taking a starting pitcher, putting them in the back of the bullpen for a little while, just to reset. It's not necessarily the worst thing in the world to do. And you might see, you give Nick Castellanos some kind of a reset, you might have a repeat of last year with Bryce Harper. Would it be totally out of the realm of possibilities for Nick Castellanos to have a reset, then come back and be an MVP caliber baseball player for the rest of the year?
No, I mean, it happens a lot. Like, this actually happens. It's not something new in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's players that, don't heat up until June. That are batting 200. I mean, at least Castellanos' average, he started out really well. So even though he slumped, his average is still at like 250. Like, I'm looking at the way that he's putting balls in play, and he's still getting some hits. Like, he got a couple singles the other, a couple games back. It's not that he's like to the point where it's like, oh my God, he's at the point of no return, or he forgot how to play baseball. I saw you.
I was going at it with my man, Coach Scooter.
Well, yeah,
I'm like, don't forget to play baseball. He's like, yeah, he sucks. I'm like, come on.
But it's normal. This is a normal problem that happens a lot. It happens to the best baseball players. I mean, Mike Schmidt used to go through slumps that were like unheard of. Like, he would go 100 at bats without a hit, and then all of a sudden have 20 home runs. Like, it's just it. I know right now we're frustrated, but we have to realize, like, this happens more often than not. And I am happy that Rob Thompson is the manager now and not Joe Girardi with this situation, because I think Joe Girardi would ignore it. I think Rob Thompson is getting to the point where I think he's been super patient with Castellanos, but I think he needs to go to him. And I think he will, because I think he's shown the ability to kind of make difficult decisions. He did it with Knebel already. And I know we said maybe
the next one is Jesus Familia. That's the next difficult decision.
But I do believe that, a little mini reset would work. Like, I'm not even saying like 2 days off. Give them 1 day off. Just rest them for a day. Take him out of the lineup. Let him have a day off. Bryce is back now. You could do that. And then I would come back the next series, and I would say, okay, Nick, I'm not going to put you in the 4-hole right now. You know you're struggling. I know you're struggling. I'm going to put you in the 6 or 7-hole, and let's see what happens.
Let you work yourself out of it.
And I guarantee you, I
put you right back in that 4-hole as soon as you get out of it.
Give it 2 weeks, and he'll be back. I guarantee.
Absolutely. I do want to say one other thing about the Phillies. And I brought this up as a joke a few times in the last couple of weeks. And yesterday was just more proof on how much my joke is actually kind of maybe scarily like true. There is a curse on the bullpen. I mean, Matt Moore, who couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with the Phillies as a pitcher, starter or reliever last year, he's got a 2.52 ERA with the Rangers, pitching lights out. I was looking at his stats. He has pitched now 6 times in the month of June. He has not given up a run out of that bullpen. He's there. He's the Rangers' like long relief guy. Pitched an inning in the third. Only had 20 pitches in that for the Phillies or for the Rangers yesterday. I was looking at his stats. He had a little iffy. He had 2 bad outings in May, but he is literally outside of 2 bad outings in May, giving up like 1 run the rest of the entire season. What the hell? Then I was like, you know what? Let's look more. Then I'm like, I remember seeing something about Nick Pivetta. Nick Pivetta's got a 3.3 ERA with the Red Sox. He's one of their best pitchers on that team. I really think there is a curse on the Phillies pitching mound and that bullpen out there, because there are way too many pitchers that come here after pitching well and stink, or stink here and leave, go elsewhere and pitch really well. I mean,
I don't think you're not wrong. I mean, there is definitely an issue, but I don't think it's just a curse. I think it's the pitching. I think it's our fundamental, the pitching coaches that we've had. I think it's our system is just, it's mixed up. It's analytics once again. I think Clentac set this organization back 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
It's that bad, like from top to bottom. The things that he instilled, like down in the farm and even in the major league level. those analytics, even Kapler. I know we say, oh, Kapler, I would have him back over Girardi, but Kapler had a lot of inconsistencies as well. I'm not a huge Kapler guy, regardless of that argument. Like this just I want to just see some baseball, and I think some of these guys, like, it's almost like pressure was taken off when they went to other teams. Like, it's almost like they were in like I
was saying yesterday, Jesus Familia, he has sucked now for a few years. He hasn't been the elite guy. But Brad Hand and Corey Knebel, they haven't been closers in a long time, but they weren't bad pitchers the last couple of years. They were good pitchers elsewhere. And then you look at, the Pavettas or the Matt Moores. You go back to, was it last year, 2 years ago, Heath Hembry and Workman. They were really good relievers. We trade for them, then they suck. Robertson, great pitcher, injured here, leaves here, is pitching with the Cubs. It's more. I'm not a sarcastic, like, believe in hexes type guys, but there is seriously, like, you must come to Philly and then be like, oh man, pitchers do come here and suck. And then when you say that to yourself, let that get into your head, and it's like a mental thing that there's problems here, so you just start to struggle here, and then you, like you said, you leave here, the pressure's gone, and you start pitching. If you were a relief pitcher, and you were a free agent, or you were asking for a trade off of your bad team to a contender, would you want to come and pitch in the Phillies bullpen right now?
Absolutely not.
I mean, it's not
I will say this. I think if you look at Dave Dombrowski's moves, I think it's obvious now. It's blatantly obvious that when he went and took Corey Knebel and Familia, that those moves were the wrong moves. I mean, Familia more so than Knebel. Familia
was not
has been a shell of himself for a few years. Like, we're not getting the Familia that had 45 saves and was like a 1.71 ERA with the Mets. Like, that's years ago. I mean, we got the Familia that we thought, okay, well, you could throw him in the bullpen and he can maybe be a 6th or 7th inning guy. Well, he's not even able to do that now.
Right.
He's just not. He's not. His fastball has lost something. He's not. He doesn't locate his pitches. And Corey Knebel, when you have one pitch, it's hard to succeed in that role, especially as a closer. He was good. Corey Knebel's best line of work was as a setup man for the with the Brewers. Like, that's where he's had.
The mistake wasn't bringing Knebel in here. The mistake was bringing him in here and telling him, you are going to be the closer.
Exactly.
So real quick, we got a 4-game set against the Chargers. The Chargers. Dude, I'm struggling this week with team names and player names. My mind is just not focused with the.
That was a boomer moment there, buddy.
Yeah, that was yesterday. Me calling Steve Nash Kevin Nash, and luckily Cole was able to whip that image up really quickly for me. The San Diego Padres, really good baseball team, and I was looking at the ERAs for the 3 starting pitchers or the 4 starting pitchers that we are going up against this week. And let me tell you something. We're going to have our issue. If we're struggling offensively, which we are right now, we're going to have some trouble out there in San Diego this week. I mean, you Darvish, you still got 3.17. 3 of the 4 pitchers have a 3.5 or better ERA. One of them has a sub-2 ERA that we're going to be facing this weekend. What do the Phillies got to do to be able to attack these San Diego Padre pitchers?
They need to get out of the funk. They need to start hitting with runners in scoring position again, because that's the Phillies' struggles all stem from that. It's not about they don't get hits, because they get guys on base, whether it's hits or walks. It's coming up with a big hit when there's a guy on. That's the main problem. So I'll go back to the basics. Rob Thompson needs to tell him, go up there with a better approach. It's plate approach. Plate discipline is what's lacking on this team. You look at a lot of the teams that are having success right now. Strikeouts are up among in baseball by a large margin across the league. Strikeouts, whether it's pitching strikeout, pitchers are throwing more strikeouts and batters are striking out more often. But if you look at those teams at the top of the divisions, look at their daily box score
Mm-hmm.
They are not striking out at the same level as the teams that are in the middle or the bottom feeders, and that's a fact. I looked at them, and I know I'm not trying to go on the. This is not. I'm just using an example. The Mets right now they're struggling, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's different about the Mets? They're striking out more at the plate. Like their offense was doing really well. Like I saw one game where they only struck out 3 times. That's excellent for
In this day and age. That's excellent.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. But so if you look at the Phillies, like when they strike out a lot, that just shows they're not going up there with their approach sucks. You need to let the pitcher throw because a lot of these guys are wild. But if we make their job easy, then I mean that's half the battle right there that you lost. So sorry, I'm not trying to ramble, but
no, you're right and you're spot on there. I just like I look at this and I look at the rotation and we got Eflin and Suarez going in these 4 games and going up against their really good starting pitching. I'm finding it hard in my mind that we're going to win 2 out of 4 here. It's going to be really tough. The way we're playing, the way we're pitching, the way we're hitting versus what San Diego is doing, it's going to be extremely, extremely hard in my mind to predict the 2-2. Even if they went 2-2, that means they went 2-4 on this road trip. But there's a really good chance this turns into a 1-5 road trip here for the Phillies, and really quickly. I mean, that if that's the case, we're in a lot of trouble again. We're back to square one. We're back to a lifeless team, and this goes back to my theory when we fired Joe Girardi, or when I was talking about firing Joe Girardi, and Rob Thompson was named the interim. And look, Rob Thompson, that spark he gave, that initial spark was great and all, but the theory that you never hire a full-time, for real manager in baseball till the offseason. You always roll with the interim. The Phillies should have been looking for that guy now. So because people see Rob Thompson, it's just a guy that's a placeholder. And I'm not taking anything away from what he's done, but is he going to be able to big picture hold these guys accountable? Because he's not going to be their boss next year.
Well, that's why I mentioned that I think it is an important stretch, and I want to see how this team responds to adversity and how he manages when the team is under adversity. So I think this is basically this is where he really shows whether he can maybe be a long-term answer, maybe not here as the manager, but as a long-term manager, or as just a fill-in guy that you used because you had to. This right here, because when you have a team that has the talent, I mean, if he gets this team to the playoffs, I'd be hard pressed to say that he doesn't deserve, a shot, even if it isn't here, somewhere else. Because just to get the team turned around from how they were when they were playing under Girardi is almost like a miracle.
Wouldn't it be better then for them just to remove the interim tag, like extend him through next year? Give him like a short-term little extension, because then maybe, I'm not trying to say the players aren't playing for him, but how much accountability can you hold as a boss if you're not really the boss? It's like, all right, so I'm trying to make a way to think of this in our business, with the restaurant business. Look, so your store, maybe your general manager at your food store is on vacation or has to take like a 2 or 3 week hiatus, and they bring in, instead of promoting like someone like you to an interim GM, they bring in a GM from another store to fill in for 2 weeks. Are you really gonna, if he yells at you, are you really gonna care? Because he's not your boss.
That's a perfect example.
He's just filling in. Are you going to go to him and be like, I'm sorry, I'll do better? Or are you gonna be like, whatever, what are you gonna do about it? What I mean?
I actually had that same situation, and you know what? You're spot on.
I was trying to figure it out in my business, but I'm like, I think the food store business would,
there isn't accountability. You're right. So you're right that he is in a tough situation, because
and that interim tag in all sports always, it's like, at the end of the year in football, there, people always fire their coach with 1 week left, and there's the interim coach just for the 1 week, but that's just 1 week. We're only in the middle of June right now, and look, I said they were going to win 82 games. I'm sticking to that. unless some massive change happens. And look, Dave Dombrowski's probably going to be uber aggressive in the next 4 to 5 to 6 weeks, trying to change this team a little bit more. Probably won't be enough, but like Nick Castellanos, you're struggling. You got. Do you really care what Rob Thompson says? Odubel Herrera or Bryson Stott, or I'm looking at the bottom end of this team. Do you really care? He's not your boss next year. I don't know. It's a thought that I had when they fired him and named him the interim, and they said he's going to be the interim for the rest of the year. It's just one of those things that I just don't know.
I mean, it's a tough question. I think you're onto something, though, and I think maybe –
I think it's something that we need to continue to discuss on this show, maybe think about it a little bit more, and on another episode, we'll bring this interim tag up as a topic and whether that helps you or hurts you when it's this long of a season. It's not like it's the last 2 weeks of the year. You've got 3 more months here to go.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But
all right. Yeah, we're gonna keep going on with that topic shortly. We'll bring it back up, but we got to transition a little bit here because we got the NBA draft tonight. Got lots of news and rumors happening. Free agency unofficially has already begun because there's no such thing as illegal tampering in sports anymore. So we got the man, we got the leader of Team DSM here, Scotty Drowned. Knows the basketball better than any of us and knows the draft better than any of us. So Scotty, first question before I even welcome you on the show. Is it Paolo Banchero? Am I saying it right?
No. It's Paolo Banchero.
Banchero. Okay, all right.
I said Banchero too.
I had no idea. I had no idea what I was thinking about it this morning.
No, I'll be honest. It's his first name that I was struggling with before I actually watched him play at Duke and heard how everybody was saying his name. But yeah, it's Paolo Banchero, and I'm glad you brought him up because I think
we're going to talk about him for sure.
Yeah.
Before we talk about specific players or the Sixers specifically, I want to talk about this whole draft class as a whole, and it's a problem in the NBA right now because some seasons, and this is one of them, that there is no elite superstar. There's no for sure. This guy's going to, no doubt about it, be the first or second pick in the draft. There's a lot of question marks to it. There's a lot of good basketball players, not taking anything away from them. But there's no superstar, great, transcendent talent in this draft, which makes going into the draft, it's a total crapshoot. We don't know what any team's going to do. And that's why there's so many rumors of trades and teams trying to move out of this pick draft altogether.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this draft class as a whole? Are people undervaluing it, or is it about right where it stands?
I think it is being undervalued in a sense because I do think there is some star talent, potential in the class itself. But I think overall, as I've been evaluating the class, what really sticks out to me is kind of the transition from looking for an all-star caliber player or a star potential player to where now it just seems like forwards, wings, athleticism is at the forefront. So Jabari Smith, just an example, right? He's in the top 3, most likely going to go number 1 tonight. And it's because he's a lengthy forward. He can shoot the 3-pointer. He plays tenaciously on defense. Look at the Sixers. What is their biggest void, right? When you think about it. And it's the most coveted type of player in the NBA. And I think now we're seeing, rather than just focusing on that guard with the handles, it's hard to imagine in my eyes a Kyrie Irving going first in the draft these days.
Right.
How long ago was it? However long Kyrie's been in the league, he went number 1 in his respective draft class. It's hard to imagine that happening these days. I mean, you saw LaMelo Ball. He's like a 6'5", 6'6" point guard. He's not a regular point guard. So people are looking for length, athleticism, and then they also want you to shoot the 3 ball. And you're seeing that with a lot of the big guys that are coming out of this draft. Even the centers are able to space the floor for the most part. And it's interesting how the league is kind of transcending and transforming in the way that they evaluate players.
So, if you were like the Orlando Magic, or I'm trying to remember I don't even have the positions up on my screen. Here we go. Orlando, OKC, the Rockets, those teams in the top 3. Are you comfortable taking any of these top guys as a top 3 pick? Because when you get the number 1 overall pick or the number, it's an important draft. It's a career shaping or a organizational shaping pick. Are you comfortable, or are you looking to make a big move with those picks? Like I look at Detroit. They've cleared a boatload of cap space. They've got multiple high picks. Are you using these picks in your cap space and going out and getting a DeAndre Ayton instead, or are you comfortable taking one of these guys?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, because I think, Detroit, even Sacramento is right where I would start to consider moving back or just moving off of those picks in general, because you look at the top 3 picks. I look at those teams: Orlando, OKC, Houston. These aren't teams that are ready to compete, even if they were able to like trade for a star or something. And what star would want to play for them?
Right.
So, as far as the top 3 picks, I think, you take those guys. You hope that one of them, or, maybe 2 of the 3 end up turning into like an all-star caliber. I will say Paolo Banchero, I think his floor is like a really solid role player. For example, Chet Holmgren, I think he has the potential to be a really good player. His frame is a concern. And then Jabari Smith, he seems to be like the guy that has the equal amount of floor potential as like Apollo Banchero, but then he also has the potential, of a Chet Holmgren to go with that floor, that high floor that you would say that he has. But once you get to Sacramento, now the next best prospect is Jaden Ivey, and it's a guard. So it's like, for Sacramento, didn't we just go through this with Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox and Davion Mitchell? You just have a boatload of guards in Sacramento. So I don't know. Jaden Ivey is too good to pass up with the 4th pick, but do you need another guard? So like I would look at Sacramento, like they should consider it. And you're already spot on with Detroit. Their eyes are on DeAndre Ayton. And of course, you go out, you don't want to take a Keegan Murray. I get it. The dude averaged like 23 points, 8 rebounds in college. He shoots 40% from the 3, and he is a center. It's a good look for him, but you taking him over DeAndre Ayton, who has experience and can kind of.
I'm still stuck on the whole Phoenix wants to get rid of DeAndre Ayton thing.
That's odd.
I know they don't want to give him a max deal, but they give how much money to Chris Paul, who's 38 years old? You know what I mean? It's like it really boggles my mind that they'd move on to him. I know my man Jason Sullivan, would love DeAndre Ayton opposite, Cade Cunningham in there in Detroit. I know he would be jumping up and down for joy if that's what they did. So sorry, Jason, you got something there? Sorry.
No, I was just, the basketball draft amazes me now because like I said, I don't know all these prospects, and it's kind of reminding me how, like you just said, that how basketball has changed. And, Scotty brings the point up about the fact that teams are more looking for these athletic type wing type players. And it's not like it's not the overall skill now. It's more so, can they do those certain things? Hockey's kind of been similar where, it used to be like, unless there's a generational player that's out there, teams are looking for more speed, guys that are fast, guys that can shoot the puck. It's almost like this similar in how the games have changed and evolved to how the drafts have changed and evolved. And it's just, it's kind of like, I'm curious because it used to be so much, I don't want to say easier, but it used to be like, I think we kind of had a better idea of how these guys were going to work out. Now it's almost like a crapshoot where I have no idea like how some of these guys are. And you think, oh, that guy's drafted first. And it ends up that a team that has the 20th pick gets a guy that's actually the best player in that class. Like, it's crazy to me.
No, you're right. You're right. And, it is crazy to think about how the evaluation process has changed. And you'll see what I'm talking about whenever we go over the Sixers opportunities at 23, because that once you get into the 20s, that's when you really start thinking about, okay, potential versus what I need right now. And, so with the Sixers, it's a very interesting case, and along with many other teams in the 20s, late 20s.
So let's get right to the Sixers then. So 23 for the Sixers. First off, there's lots of rumors that they won't even pick at 63, that they're trying to move it. And so, A, do you think they pick at 23, or do they make a move today? And B, so like I again trying to research and prep. Like, first off, to backtrack, it feel like that the whole draft process is sped up because they don't wait very long now. It's literally the NBA Finals, and boom, 10 days later, it's draft day. There needs to be a little more gap to prep for this stuff. But
I agree.
from what I've read in the little prep I've been doing for this show specifically, that it's pretty deep, this draft, in that 18 to 25 range in potential athletic wing depth. That there's a really good chance the Sixers are doing their homework right, that if they select somebody at 23, there's a good chance that somebody half decent is going to be there.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you there. And it's crazy because as I've been following like just all the mainstream mock drafts over the last few weeks, they just keep changing, man. And there's really no solidarity to what might be there at 23. So I think for me, I as far as what I'm thinking for the Sixers, Daryl Morey specifically, he's not trying to pick at 23. He's trying to move off that pick, get some type of thing in return, maybe even shed some salary. And it's been rumored all throughout, the last few weeks, and it's kind of hard to follow because there's stuff that comes out contradicts the other rumors, and because like the big thing this week was he's hell bent on moving off of Matisse and the first round pick. Woj reported, that if you haven't received a text message from the Sixers regarding Matisse in the first round pick, then your phone is probably shut off. So they're trying to move it. It's also been rumored they're trying to move Tobias Harris. It's hard to gauge what his value is with that contract. Funny thing with Tobias Harris, and I'm on the record. I do think it's time to move off of him. Just try something new. We got to try something, right? But I also don't think you just throw him away at the same time. And I think he's becoming a very heavily underrated player in the NBA. And just the fact that there's not some team out there that can't use one. He's a great leader, so you're going to be able to have young players learn from him, which I think that's a huge thing for a growing franchise that would have a lot of cap space. So that it's interesting to see how that plays out, and you have to wonder. Have teams made an offer and it's just not good enough in Morey's eyes. But overall, regarding the 23rd pick, just getting back to the point, I think they're going to try their hardest to move on it, but there are plenty of players that should or could be available at that 23rd pick, as you saw a few years ago with Maxey. So just got to make the right choice.
This is we were talking before you got on the show when I did the intro that this is kind of like that year where there's going to be potentially when you see all these sites do the redrafts, 5 years later and all. This is going to be the year when you redraft this NBA. There's a really good chance that someone taking in 10 to 15 or 20 to 25 is probably redrafted in the top 3 or 4. This is the year where the Antetokounmpo might come from the middle of the first draft. Paul George, the Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey would be a top 3 pick in his draft class.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is definitely that kind of draft class. So the Sixers, if they're doing their homework, and I know there have been a few guys who the one G League guy they had in this week that I know everybody was on hand for that workout. His name's escaping my head now, but there's a good chance.
Jaden Hardy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they had him in. On him specifically, I mean, you don't normally get your superstar leader player, Joel Embiid type guy, going to pre-draft workouts, and he was there for Harden's workout. Does that say something to you that maybe they really do like this guy and they wanted to get Joel's opinion on him and how he might be able to fit with him?
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. And something about the G League guys that for some reason I feel like the Sixers have such a strong connection to their G League affiliates as well that they may just trust the evaluation of G League type players, just these kids that are deciding to go into the G League for their first year of eligibility. So there is part of me that thinks that one, Daryl Morey, the Sixers organization, are going to cling to those evaluations just because those are going to be more trustworthy to them. And let's be honest, these kids that come and play in the G League, it's a whole different world than college basketball. It's way more relevant to what the NBA is actually like, in my opinion. So when you think about the Jaden Hardy himself, he brings a lot of intangibles. Once again, you talk about the length. You talk about the bringing just the type of facilitation to the guard spot. defensive tenacity, being versatile on the defensive end. It's everything the Sixers need, right? Like, so while I think they're very serious in bringing him in for a workout, I also think there's a very strong chance he won't be there at 23.
Okay.
So, but kind of like what you said there, 10 and on, right? Pick your poison with these guys with length, they're forwards, and they can shoot the three ball, because there's probably 10 of them in the back half of the draft where these guys are anywhere from 6'6" to 6'9". They shoot 35% plus from three, and they're athletic defensively. So like, I have a list of 5 guys here that I think could fall to the Sixers, and I would love to have them. The first one being on my list, Terry Eason from LSU. Once again, 6'8" forward, averaged 17 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, shot 36% from three-point line. He's explosive. He plays with intensity. He could be picked anywhere from 15 to 23. And the reason I say 23, because if he makes it to 23, it better not go past that, because he should be their guy, man. I'm telling you, the Sixers specifically need to find a wing. If they're sticking in this 23rd spot, they have to find a young athletic wing. It's everything that they're missing. We've talked about it in the DSM chat thoroughly, just the lack of athleticism and even you can even say youth, but the youth that they have is not focused on being athletic and a versatile perimeter defender. So I think that's partly what the Sixers should be looking for. The next on my list, obviously, I've mentioned this to you guys. Wendell Moore from Duke. He's a guy that should definitely be there at 23. He would be kind of on the back end of my list if all these other guys are not there. I'm taking Wendell Moore because I would imagine that he will still be there. And this is a guy, he shot 42% from three last year, played the small forward position, but actually brought the ball up a lot for Duke last year, so he can facilitate, he can run an offense as well. So he shoots the three ball well. He averaged 6 rebounds. He averaged 4 assists per game. And ultimately, he was able to lead his team to the Final Four, right? So he has experience. He's been coached by Coach K. He has that type of upbringing. And he played 3 years in college. So that's something that as a Sixers organization, I get youth and potential is like a huge thing in the draft. But on the other side of that, when you have a team that's ready to contend, experience can also factor in as well. So I think those are 2 interesting prospects right there, but the list goes on.
So it's interesting because I had a question formulated, a follow-up question, and then you just kept making the question more obvious and everything. So we talk about what they need, the Sixers, and I don't want them drafting at 23.
I agree.
Because these young guys that you're talking about, I have no faith in Glenn Rivers utilizing, developing. You look at Jaden Springer, you look at Paul Reed, you look at Charles Bassey, these young guys that could have potentially, Isaiah Joe, could have potentially helped the playoffs, but never got to see the light of day during the regular season to be developed. I would actually, if Glenn wasn't our coach, taking one of those guys at 23, those young wings, I would be okay with that.
Yeah.
If a guy that knew how to develop and knew how to bring one of these guys in and get them at, I have no faith in Glenn. So, I don't want them picking there because I feel like it's a wasted pick.
Yeah, no, I honestly tend to agree with you, Phil. I think that was my biggest conundrum with this draft is like you look at this Sixers team. For instance, I look at like the Celtics or the Warriors in the finals. If you can get a kid that can just fill a role like a Gary Payton Jr. did for the Warriors, right? His first year, I know he played in the G League and they picked him up that way. But getting a guy that can just fill a role, they don't need to come in and be a star. Not every 20th pick and on is going to be Tyrese Maxey, and that's fine. You got to give them a chance. And like you said, Bassey, that's a guy that could have helped us in the playoffs. Paul Reed, if he plays earlier in the season, that's a guy that could have helped us. Jaden Springer, he's been renowned as a great, not a good, a great perimeter defender. He's very athletic for a guard, and his size gets zero opportunity, right? And you just look around and you think to yourself, well, okay, if these guys aren't getting opportunities, if Maxey, we see what he is, he could barely get over 10 minutes a game in his rookie year. what are we going to do with a rookie? And there's
Right.
several, man. I listed off two, but Jalen Williams from Santa Clara, EJ Liddell from Ohio State, Kendall Brown from Baylor. These are all guys, lengthy, athletic, that you could bring in, give them playing time early, get them some help developing, because that's what you're supposed to do as a coach. And then it can benefit you later on in the season. And that's just something I don't see Doc Rivers doing, like you said. And
So
ultimately,
we got a lot of people. I thought it
pointless.
What
this
is
was a joke. Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, we got somebody bringing up. There's like, I don't know where this show got shared, but we got like massive amount of views coming in on Facebook right now. And I've got like 5 people. I thought it was a joke, but I Google search. He's an actual player. There's a lot of people asking about Kai Soto. I don't even know who he is, but he's some Filipino guy. Have you heard of this guy, Scotty?
Very, very mildly, but just
Okay. I thought we were getting like spammed here because all these people comment on this guy, but he's a legit player.
No, he last played over in the Australian League. He's a 7'2" center, very defensively inclined. But he can also, it looks like he can space the floor as well. And he's got a good size to him. He's not too thin for his size either. And it looks like he was a late declaration for the draft as well.
All right. He's not on ESPN's top like 40 list, so I thought it was a joke. So I had to Google it while you were talking there. Sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
No, why are you sorry? I love this stuff. I mean, I'm excited to talk to Scotty. So I guess I'm curious, like, what we saw obviously Tyrese Maxey. Now, was that was that Maury's pick, or was that previous regime?
As far as Doc Rivers?
No, I'm saying Tyrese Maxey. Was that did Daryl
who was making that decision
when we drafted him?
From my understanding, it was Daryl Morey. Now, generally, he doesn't get too involved with draft day, but from my understanding, it was Daryl Morey. Whenever you see like after the draft it comes out, he'll like put these highlight videos of guys that he's obtained and like film that he's viewed. Like if you follow him on Twitter, and I do remember him putting out the film on Tyrese Maxey as well, because that was a steal. Honestly, he was a guy that should have been way earlier in more of the lottery phase, but he fell.
Yeah. So the reason I'm asking that, so knowing that how we hit on Maxey, what was Maury's track record of drafts in his previous tenure as GM? I'm curious because I want to see if he's had a good track record, maybe that will bode well for us.
I know Scotty's looking it up too. I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm looking it up because I'll be honest with you, Jason.
Daryl Morey's record and track record is similar to Dave Dombrowski. It's trade and sign free agents.
Yeah, so it's not really.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that Rockets team. I mean, he's looking to bring in PJ Tucker and Eric Gordon again. They were guys he brought in to surround James Harden in Houston. He traded for James Harden in Houston. He traded and signed those guys to pair with James Harden in Houston. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't remember any major superstars coming out of Houston draft wise.
Okay, I was just curious because I'm thinking like, okay, well, if you had a good track record in the past, maybe it's a good sign that we got Maxey. Maybe he'll hit on another guy.
Actually, the track record of Elton Brand. Elton Brand has, the Sixers, since Elton Brand's taken over, have had some decent draft classes. They've picked some decent guys late in the draft. Go ahead, Scotty.
Yeah, actually, I got it pulled up here so I can go over just some of the names featured, in some of Daryl Morey's drafts. I never actually thought to look into it because I was under the same understanding, Phil, that this guy obtained James Harden. He traded for him, obtained Chris Paul, traded for him, obtained Russell. So this guy has just been trading picks for years. But as we look at Daryl Morey starting in 2007, I don't know if you guys remember like Aaron Brooks, drafted Nicholas Batum in 2008. So that's not a bad pick. He was actually traded draft night to Portland for Dante Green, Joey Dorsey. So that was a bad deal. They should have just kept Batum. Patrick Peterson, Marcus Morris. He drafted Marcus Morris in 2011. Kawhi Leonard was drafted with the very next pick.
Oh,
That's
that's all you got to tell me, Scotty.
Oh man,
we're done on that. What is Scotty's perfect scenario for the next? It's 9:30 almost right now. The Sixers would be selecting about 9:30 tonight. So the next 12 hours, perfect scenario. My perfect scenario is they trade out. I don't know what trade, but my perfect scenario is at 8:00 tonight. I don't even have to turn the draft on because the Sixers are done for the night, and it's a strong, solid trade. I just don't know what that perfect trade is yet. What's Scotty's perfect scenario going into today?
What I would ask you guys, like when you look at some of the guys that have been rumored available, a Jay Crowder, right, or an Eric Gordon, would you flip this 23rd pick for a guy of that age? Obviously they're a little bit older, but they do bring something that the Sixers definitely need. Jay Crowder brings tenacity, defense. He can shoot from the outside. Eric Gordon's that spark plug off the bench as a sixth man. Would you feel appropriate trading a first round pick for one of those that caliber of player?
I mean, the pick itself, I'd be willing to trade.
Yeah.
It's the rumors that they're trying to trade the pick and whoever else to clear the cap space for PJ Tucker. I love PJ Tucker. I didn't know Jay Crowder was available. I'm actually a really big Jay Crowder fan because I think he's the type of player this team really needs, the energy and the personality wise. If you told me we were going to trade this pick and make other moves and get a Crowder and an Eric Gordon, I'm okay with it. I mean, it's not enough. I don't want to trade. I don't want to trade too many picks and only be stuck with Crowder or Tucker and Eric Gordon. That to me is not enough of an offseason. You still need so much more work there. So as long as you're only trading the pick or only trading, a simple salary, I'm fine with that. If you have to invest multiple assets and make them your two big moves this offseason, then I think we're selling ourselves short this offseason.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point with Jay Crowder, and you could even throw in a guy like Marcus Morris in there as well, because he's another guy that's rumored available with the Clippers. But you look at PJ Tucker, and as soon as I saw him opt out of that $7.4 million with Miami, my mind immediately was like, we don't have enough money to get this guy. Like he's become almost, I hate to use the word overrated, but I mean, in a sense, it really is. Like, tenacity, mentality, it is all great. It is what the Sixers need, but it can only go so far if this guy is 39 years old hobbling around, right? So, if I'm the Sixers, if you get to PJ Tucker Day and he's ready to sign and you can get him for whatever the amount is, then you do it. But I'm exploring Jay Crowder. I'm exploring Marcus Morris, seeing if we can flip something for those guys into which we don't have to sign PJ Tucker to a 3-year, $30 million deal.
I know you're not originally from Philly, Scotty, but you live in Philly now. I've always wanted one of the Morris twins to come home and play. I always have. Honestly, I always had this dream of both Morris twins playing together on the Philadelphia 76ers. That was just always my dream right there. But, to get one of them, I'd be okay with it.
They fit in perfectly.
I don't want them to put all their eggs into just a couple old guys. We do need some youth and some young energy.
I agree.
Maybe not draft pick young energy, but we need some form of youth. I see, again, just like when I was talking Ben Simmons trades with you earlier this year, all the young athletic wings on Toronto.
Yeah.
And all those guys that are potentially everything I see, Toronto's reshaping their roster this offseason. They're going to make moves. Yeah. I'd be targeting some of those guys. I don't know what we have that we can move and what we would do, but we need somebody that's young, athletic wing. I saw somebody talking about Chris LeVert. I know he's injured a lot, but we need young, athletic wings on this team. So yes, Crowder, Gordon would help, but it's not necessarily what we need, in my opinion. So
I agree.
Just not solely. You give me Gordon and OG, that's a successful offseason.
OG, OG's available.
I guess
he is available. You give me Gordon and Tucker as the only two major moves, I think it's a disappointing offseason. I don't know. That's just where I sit with this.
Yeah, no,
I
agree.
No, I'm sorry to interject. I guess I'm like the needle mover type guy. I'm looking for like a big move. So I guess my question is, what is going on with Bradley Beal? Is he a free agent? Like, could we possibly get him? And what would it take to do that? Like, it's a lot of moving pieces. I know you got the Harden situation. Like, how would you do it?
It's going to take time.
Yeah, at this point, the way the rumors are swirling, it seems like Bradley Beal is going to have a ton of suitors. I mean, I've heard anywhere from the Lakers to Chicago, all the way down to Dallas, as possible suitors for Bradley Beal. And Dallas is an interesting one because they have a guy by the name of Jalen Brunson who is due for a big extension, and so that just seems like, in my eyes, like the perfect opportunity of a sign and trade to move Brunson to Washington, get Beal to Dallas. I do think Beal is going to opt out. I know there's been, swirling rumors. Okay, so he officially opted out.
Yesterday, he officially opted out. But then they're like, he's not going to just go into free agency. It will be either he stays in Washington or he signs a trade. He wants that 5-year max. He doesn't want the 4 years. So the only way the Sixers can compete in a Bradley Beal deal is Tyrese Maxey. That's the only way. And that's the question.
And it's not only Maxey, it's Maxey and change.
Yeah, and Maxey and change. I don't know. It's gonna have to take the perfect deal for me to get off of Tyrese Maxey. And I don't know
would you trade Maxey for Kevin Durant? Because I know I would. I would.
It's so funny. It's so funny. This conversation is getting so huge.
I know I would.
Because there's zero chance. There's zero chance. Because, like, if you're the Nets, there is no way I'm trading James Harden to the Sixers and then trading Kevin Durant to the Sixers as well. So, I
agree with you, but
that's just like, that's crossing enemy territory.
Throwing up that thing, and I just don't get it anyway. All right,
Zach LaVine is the star that I would have my eye on if the Sixers are able to make a big move. I think he's probably the most obtainable from Chicago. Doesn't seem like he really is sold on being there. He is coming off injury, so he could, lessen the money a little bit. And he won't cost nearly as much as Beal.
It wouldn't cost Maxey to get LaVine.
Yeah.
So, Scotty, we're going to wrap
it
up.
They like Thibault in Chicago, so.
Yeah, they do. Maybe Thibault and Harris for Zach LaVine. I don't know. Yeah. I would do Thibault and Harris for Zach LaVine in a heartbeat. Yeah. Scotty, I got to close with a Duke thing. Paolo, Banchero? Am I saying it right now? I don't know.
Yes, you got it.
What's your? I know you love your Dukies and you root for those guys no matter where they go. What's your dream scenario for him? Where's he going tonight?
I think he's lined up to go right where he should, and I like where he's at the number 3 pick going to Houston. You got a lot of explosive talent down there. They got a lot of young guys. I know KPG, Kevin Porter Jr. He isn't the most renowned character-wise, but he's explosive. Jalen Green's explosive. They got a lot of good things going on down there. They just moved Wood, so it seems like they're lining up just to fill that power forward, small forward spot. I'll say this about Paolo. I think, and I've said it to you guys. I think he's the best player in this draft class. I think
people. Give me my next question. So, who's going to be the best player out of this draft?
I think people are overthinking it, Phil, and I think similar. It's not even similar to Jason Tatum in the sense that Jason Tatum fell to 3. Markelle Fultz was just as hyped and is skilled in college as Jason Tatum. So, like, to say that it's the same as Jason Tatum, I don't think so. Although in that draft, I thought, biasly, I thought Jason Tatum was the better player. I think the same thing here. I think Chet, he can become a good defensive player. He could, defensive player of the year potential right there. He can space the floor, but he just doesn't have the NBA feel that Apollo Banchero has. I'll be transparent about Jabari Smith. He sounds really good. I did not get to watch him a ton in college. So just watching tape, yes, he has a good game. But once again, when you talk about getting into the NBA and being able to create your own shot, get to your spots and get shots that you like, Paolo Banchero is the most NBA ready player in the draft. And I think, once again, people are overthinking it to the point where you're moving him down to 3rd now because he just has a little bit less potential maybe than Chet Holmgren. You know what I mean? So I think people are overthinking it. At the same time, I get it. OKC, Orlando, they're in the long game right now. Houston's a little bit closer to being relevant. So they'll get Paolo Banchero. I think they'll get the best player in the draft. And I think he's going to come in and compete heavily for that Rookie of the Year.
I just don't get that whole Chet. I mean, how can a guy be 7'2" and not even weigh 200 pounds? I mean,
it's odd. Yeah,
dude, that's
and he's going to play center.
Yeah, that looks like. Could you just imagine the first time he's got to go up against Joel Embiid?
Right. That's all I think about. That's all I think about.
Pancake him.
Yeah, I actually
pancaked, man.
6'2", 6'3" when I stand up straight. I think I could body up Chet. I really do. I really do. That was my game. I was a rebound and a defensive guy. That was my specialty.
Dude, I try not to hate on Chet, but yeah, that's a big concern, man. You talk about look at where Kristaps Porzingis was drafted a couple years back by the Knicks at the 4th pick. Look at what he's turned into. Yeah, he looked really great for a season or two right there. He was looking great. Durability kicked in. He started getting injured back and forth, left and right. And look at where his career is now. He's been to the Mavericks, now to the Wizards from the Knicks. He's been moving around and he's lost a lot of value. So
absolutely,
Chet's gonna have to work on that body. That's all we're gonna have to say. He's gonna have to get in the weight room, change his diet, all of that.
Maybe you should start hanging out with Embiid and go in the Shake Shack or something. And, get some food in it.
Eat a cheeseburger or 2 or 3. I think of a new Bull and Sean Bradley with the Sixers.
Yep.
And how they were big guys, but they were just so skinny. They just couldn't have long. Actually, Sean Bradley gets a bad rap. He ended up having a pretty long career. He ended up going to Dallas, developing a little bit of an outside shot. But those big body, skin and bones, man.
That Kai Soto that they're mentioning from the Philippines, he played in the G League last year. He's 7'2", 232 pounds. So it's a little bit better, right? Like that's why you would look at that and be like, oh, well, that sounds a little bit better to me, at least. But that once again, he's in the G League, so you got to think: is he working with people with development or coaches that are already in the NBA? Mm-hmm. They can get him in the weight room. They know how he needs to fix his body and get stronger. So hopefully Chet can do that, for his own career standing.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up there. It's second straight show going into double overtime. Overtime when we go 3 to 4 minutes over the 1 hour time frame. Double overtimes when we're pushing 10 minutes over right there. So we're gonna wrap it up. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, same bat channel, same bat time. We'll be recapping the draft, whatever the Sixers decide to do. Yeah. We'll be recapping it tomorrow morning right here, trending in the AM. Make sure you're following. A lot of people tuning in on Facebook today. Make sure you're following us and shoot us a follow there on Facebook. Share out the show. Make sure you like this video on YouTube. Hit subscribe. And we're going to end the show. Instead of ring the bell, instead of fly, Eagles, fly, it's happy birthday to the birthday boy. 1 day closer to 50 years old for my man, Jason Voorhees. Happy birthday, Jason. Enjoy your day. Thank you, Scotty, for coming on, buddy. And, happy birthday.
Guys. Thank you, guys.